Welcome to But For Real, a variety show podcast co-hosted by two therapists who also happen to be loudmouth feminists. I'm Valerie, your resident elder millennial child-free cat lady.
And I'm Emerson, your resident chronically online Gen Z brat. And on the show, we'll serve up a new episode every other week that will take you on a wild ride through the cultural zeitgeist, mental health, and beyond.
You'll definitely laugh and TBH sometimes maybe cry a little because this is a silly and serious show.
Buckle up, my friends, and let's get into today's episode.
Hi, guys.
We're back.
We are. Whether you like it or not, here we are.
You know, we just keep coming back, if not to just hang out with one another on a Saturday.
Yes.
Okay, so today is kind of a juicy topic. So I wanted us to kick off, obviously, with some tea because good morning. It's the morning. So I want to know, is there a celeb cheating scandal that just rocked your world, ripped your wig off, gagged you to filth? Like, who stopped you in your tracks where you were like, oh my God, nothing's real?
What can be trusted anymore? You know, I feel like probably there's one like somewhere in the back of my brain that I'm forgetting that was like truly deeply upsetting to me at one point. But the thing that came to mind developmentally was Jennifer Aniston, because that blew up when I was like toward, I don't know, maybe the end of high school or young adulthood. Sure. And, you know, they were the power couple. And then the fucking, you know, of course, at the time, I did not have the nuanced adult perspective that I do now. So Angelina Jolie was just home record du jour.
Oh, tea, mama. Home record du jour. Okay.
What about you?
That's a good one. I mean, and I feel like I was kind of like, I even Googled, I was like, who the fuck was cheating on who?
Right.
Like, I'm just like, and really I just went with my first instinct, which was Jay-Z and Beyonce, just for the sheer fact that she's Beyonce. So I was like, oh, no one's safe. Like, I was clutching my pearls at that time. No one's safe if Beyonce is getting cheated on. What do you mean? And of course, they've never like really overtly come out with that. It's been it's been discussed via their discography. So her entire Lemonade album, I believe, came out when I was in high school. And I was like, something happened here. And it really just gagged me down. I was like, oh my God, if Beyonce is getting cheated on, what is a lowly little girl like me? What's going to happen to me? I was like really taking it personal. I was like, holy shit. So, you know, a little celeb scandal to get the day started, as we do.
Yeah. And, you know, they're people just like us, even though they're beautiful and have all the things. Like, they can hurt each other and be hurt too, right?
Yes. And we won't pretend that we know them in a know, awkwardly parasocial way. To be continued of the complexities of why people cheat.
Yeah.
Now it's time for our first segment, Tea and Crumpets, where we tell you what we can't stop talking about this week.
So what's your tea today?
I feel like I changed this 8 times this week. I was like, this, then this, and this. And where I finally landed after I came home from a long week was sitting on my couch and watching the Osbournes, because I think they're putting it out for free since Ozzy died. Now, I looked and I think that show started in 2002. So I was toddlering. So I was not, I was not keeping up with the Osbournes in that way. I was like watching Dora and shit. But I'm just watching this show and I'm like, there's just so many like, Sharon, like he's just like, he's Delulu in his own way. Like they're all nuts in the best way possible and just British. And I'm just laughing and dying. And like Kelly and Jack are just like brats. Like it's just really fucking funny. And just like their house and like the stuff that they have. It's literally like you just like re-entered the early 2000s. It's just so funny. Like I imagine for people that were more sentient than it would be quite nostalgic in some ways, but just really funny and just like dumb. Like they're like 20 minutes an episode. I put one on, eat dinner, and then I'm like, okay, I'm satiated, whatever.
Nice. Yeah, that was one of those that like I very much knew existed. I don't know if I ever watched an entire episode of.
I feel like a lot of people feel that way about the show. They're like, I'm sure this was on, but.
Right. Yep.
Yeah. How about you? What's your tea and crumpets?
I also changed mine, but I finally got around to watching season 2 of Shrinking. I forgot. Have you seen it?
So Grayson, one of our staff therapists, work bestie, I feel like I've watched 1 or 2 episodes together and like he's watched the show, but I was like, oh, this is cool. I should go home and watch it.
Yeah.
And then didn't.
You have to. And you have to watch it in order. It's not that long. It's like 2 seasons and each one is like 10 to 12 episodes. Okay. But the second season had come out like late last year and we just hadn't gotten around to watching it. And we just kind of, for us, a binge is like finishing something over 2 weeks. But we just watched it and it was so good. Like season 2 solidified it in like my probably top 10 shows of all time. So good.
No way.
Yeah,
okay.
Really.
I'm about to give it a whirl.
Give it a try.
Now it's time for Step Into My Office, where you get advice from your favorite professionally qualified, personally peculiar therapists. The submish for this week. Dear M and Val, so one of my closest friends has been cheating on their spouse. And not just like a one-time drunken slip, they're in a full-blown physical and emotional affair with someone from work. I feel so uncomfortable knowing this, especially since I know and really like their spouse. I haven't said anything, but I find myself avoiding both of them lately because I don't know how to act normal. I also keep asking myself, am I being a bad person by not saying anything? Or is this not my business? I feel stuck between being loyal to my friend and feeling like I'm complicit in something that goes against my values. Help! Sincerely, an accidental accomplice. Yikes.
Oh, such a tough spot to be in. Oh,
I know.
I mean, I guess my first thought is like, when in doubt, yeah, it's probably not your business to like do anything, to be the one disclosing anything, right? Like,
agree.
Obviously, I imagine this person may have already expressed concern to their friend, right? Like it's again, not our business to be like, you need to stop this. Like, even if we feel that way, you can say, I'm really concerned about this. I feel sad, that this is going on and like, I love you and I care about you and I can't tell you what to do, but like, I'm concerned and sad. But yeah, probably avoiding getting in the middle of anything.
We don't want a piggy in the middle in this moment, like that feels messy.
Yeah.
And agree, like, of course it's uncomfortable. And I hear the like, I'm avoiding both of them because you feel like you're just like sitting on their couch, like, I know something you don't know, and like, if it really feels that bad for you. And like you said, like trying to say, hey, like, I'm concerned. And I suppose also like, when is the line, like when and what is the line of, if it's really if it is very like destructive to your own like personal values, then like, what's a conversation about that? Like, between your friendship, even like,
absolutely,
if that's there.
Right. I'm trying to imagine like what's the most egregious sort of version of this. Like someone being like, oh yeah, like I'll watch the kid, JK, I'm going to leave and go meet my affair partner. Like, like if there was something like that where it was like, oh, this is just like so not okay. Or, you find out that there's like a lot of financial infidelity involved too, or something that really like puts your friend at risk. While it still may not be your business to say anything to the partner, it's like, okay, yeah, there comes a point where you might just have to say, you know what, I love you, but I think I need some space because it's just really hard for me to know this and to, have to kind of stand by and watch it and pretend I don't know.
Sure. And I think some people, again, in all of the hypotheticals, I can foresee somebody feeling like that's ultimatum-y, in a friendship. But like, I think how even just you phrased it is very boundaried. Like you're allowed to have boundaries around this, even though you're not directly involved. It's obviously impacting you in some way. And so really thinking about the values and the boundaries that you need and leading with that, even though leading with boundaries sometimes is hard and sucks.
Yeah.
Sounds like you're trying to be, thoughtful here, listener. So sit with those values, take care, SARS, that it's awkward.
Yeah. Best of luck.
And best of luck, truly.
Oh.
And now it's time for the DSM. In our DSM, all varieties of dysfunction, spiraling, and meltdowns are welcome. In this segment, we break down complicated concepts and common misconceptions about mental health, well-being, and tell you what we really think.
So, of course, as teased by the title, today is the hottest debate in media forever,
Since
all time ever. Since William Shakes, honey. And IRL relationships. Let's talk about infidelity. Jump scare. Everyone's immediately like, I'm scared. I'm like, it's okay, boo. Like, we'll talk through
we're in
it.
this together.
Yes. So let's kick off. How the fuck do we define infidelity? So is it emotional? Is it physical? Is it digital via the interwebs? Porn? Micro cheating? Because that's also the new phrase nowadays whenever we talk about infidelity is aspects of micro cheating. If you ever fall down micro cheating TikTok, be afraid and log out.
Be afraid.
Quickly.
Don't trust it. Yeah.
No, please. So really, it does boil down to what is a couple's shared definition of fidelity. It does have to be on a one-to-one basis, values, experiences, attachment. Research shows that people define cheating very differently, especially across culture, gender. Everyone has a different experience with what this looks like, from family of origin to past relationship trauma, anything. So it's very individually bound. And then if you're in partnership, what is a collaborated upon, agreed understanding of fidelity? And I wanted to just pull a definition per APA, the American Psychological Association, of their dictionary of what infidelity is, which is, quote, the situation in which one partner in a marriage or intimate relationship becomes sexually or emotionally involved with a person other than the partner's spouse or partner, girlfriend, boyfriend. So even that definition by itself names for what it is, but then also not, because there's
Very
so
broad.
many other things. Yeah, it's like that's the umbrella.
Define emotionally involved.
Right. And the layers to that. Friendship versus long chats. I don't know. There's just so much in that. So, and again, I think people can get frustrated with the definition of it, and especially how it comes up in partnership or when someone gets cheated on, or if you're cheating on someone, the fine lines between that. But in a way, again, it has to be this kind of umbrella, ambiguous definition, and then it has to be personally defined of what that means. So also, just kind of like the precursor, we're talking about non-consensual non-monogamy. There's a lot of things that go into all of that. And we'll briefly touch on consensual non-monogamy a bit later, but probably honestly wanting a whole separate episode for that, because that's its own topic and things to flesh out separately within there. So yeah, that's kind of just like the briefing, kind of start thinking about how you define infidelity for yourself.
Right. Which, like you're saying, also requires us to, if we're talking about a monogamous situation, people so often just assume that they mean the same thing by that, right?
Right.
So, and then it's like, well, wait, okay, but if you're talking to the person on the OnlyFans or whatever, does that count? We cannot assume that we have the same definition, even if we think, oh, well, it's monogamy, it's easy. It's not. Spoiler alert. Okay. So we wanted to cover some stats.
Yes.
Prevalence-wise, about 20 to 25% of marriages report instances of infidelity. And I'm like, that number sounds even low to me, but but that's just marriages too. So that's not even talking necessarily about dating relationships. There's a psychiatrist, Scott Halsman, who estimates 4 in 10 marriages experience an affair. So that's obviously higher. And more than half of those couples stay together afterwards. So like anything, it depends on what's your sample, all of that. But it's fairly high.
Yeah. Some of the post-infidelity outcomes, which these parts are always interesting to me. So a 2019 survey found that 54.5% of couples ended their relationship immediately after the discovery. 30% stayed together, but eventually divorced. And only 15.6% remained together long term, which is interesting.
Yeah.
And then another study that we pulled reports that 57% of couples remained together at the 5-year mark, but only if the betrayer disclosed the infidelity. If the betrayal remained secret, only 20% made it to 5 years, which in a way tracks, right? Because that can start the healing process or greatly hinder if there's secrets ongoing. And then just other estimates show that 60 to 75% of couples stay together following infidelity due to practical considerations such as kids, finances. And those are the things that very often factor into a couple wanting to stay together, those logistical or just like life, like time put in, like I'm like saying that like poorly,
Right.
but like time invested or like emotional investment or kid investment, financial investment is keeping people together, which
And
is
the cost of living, right?
Yes,
like people being like,
everything's so expensive.
Yeah, I can't afford to like move out and live on my own, or whether kids are involved or not. Yeah, and it's so funny because of how broad all of these numbers are. It's like, well, wait, this study said this, and this study said this, and so again, like with anything, you're going to find different numbers depending on how things were sampled and surveyed. But it do be happening a lot, and I think that while like one of the numbers is a little kind of pessimistic as far as staying together for the long term, but again, it's like, okay, if it's disclosed, there was another Gottman Institute stat that I was looking for right before this and I couldn't find it, but I just read it the other day, and it was a very substantial difference of if the betraying partner was willing to answer questions, like whatever the person's questions were, there was like a much higher rate of them being able to stay together than if they refused. Now, there's a caveat there of like, when it comes to the gory details of sexual encounters, that's usually just not super helpful. We'll probably come back to that later. But generally that willingness to answer questions, like how many times, when was it, like even if it feels like the fucking third degree, it is better for you in the long run if you're willing to answer the questions.
Yeah, honestly.
Yeah. And, the prevalence is, shocker, a little higher among men than women. Women do cheat, but statistically, it is a little higher among men. Let's see. In the UK, 1 in 5 adults admits to having had an affair, with many citing emotional deprivation and attention or flattery as key motivators, which we'll be getting into. I know, right? So that takes us to sort of why. There's a bajillion reasons why people could cheat. I love, one of the OG sex therapy experts, relationship therapy experts, Esther Perel. She has a whole book called The State of Affairs that is very much worth reading. She says at one point in that book, affairs are an act of betrayal, but also an expression of longing and loss. And so, there's complicated shit going on for the betrayer, and that doesn't mean that they are a bad person necessarily, or that they should be off the hook, but it's just acknowledging the kind of full 360 degrees of the situation. She also kind of in that book explores a little bit about how, the US has a particularly sort of rigid relationship with infidelity. And this is tough, right? Because it's not about letting people off the hook or just like encouraging secrecy. But we have this whole thing where it's like, kind of like our title of the episode. It's like, once a cheater, always a cheater. And like, that's just not true, because there's so many reasons that play into the why. Like for some people, is a behavior indicative of other problems that will likely lead them to be infidelitous, to cheat again? Yes. But just because someone has cheated, that does not mean that there's anything about their sort of character that means that they will for sure cheat again. So there's lots of contributing factors. Obviously, it can be indicative that there was kind of a decrease in emotional connection in the relationship, could be someone seeking novelty or more autonomy. It could be a way of regulating your self-esteem, sense of self, sometimes even just opportunity. Like, well, this, attractive person started working at my office and I see them all the time. And then, you add a little impulse control challenges to that. And you could even be in a pretty good relationship and that could happen. Poor communication, avoiding conflict, of course, trauma history or family modeling of betrayal, so many reasons. But I think one thing that's really important to name is that, yes, it's helpful to look at without ever blaming the betrayed partner for what happened, right? Like, because often, especially in the early healing processes, like we're curious about the dynamics of what are each of you contributing to the issues, but not to that issue, because that was that person's choice, right? So even when we talk about this in discernment counseling, that's one thing that the creator Bill Doherty is really clear about, is like when we're looking for those interactional patterns and we're looking for each partner's personal agenda for change and what were their contributions to the problems. In the cases of an affair, we're not talking about how did you contribute to the affair. We're talking about, aside from the affair, you probably had other issues. So let's talk about your contributions there. It is not about the betrayed partner taking any responsibility for the actual betrayal, because people are adults and they can choose to stray or not to stray, right? Yep. So it's important to look at, okay, are there things that maybe led us to kind of distance from each other or whatever? But it can happen even in pretty great relationships. And I think that is a mind fuck for people, but it's important to acknowledge, because there can be individual, identity issues going on. Again, the opportunity piece, there could be substances playing in, and some people really, even if they do love their partner, those things can play in, and it could be about reclaiming a lost part of themselves or accessing unexpressed identity. So it can be really confusing and scary, but I think it's important to acknowledge that. And then, yes, sure, look at, what has maybe eroded the connection, either emotionally or physically in the relationship. And then, of course, there are the times where it's maybe cheating happens because somebody knows, I don't really even want to be in this relationship. I just haven't figured out how to leave yet, right? Or leaving hasn't felt like an option. So yes, I'm cheating, but this relationship has been dead for a long time. But it's important not to assume that we know which one it is, right?
Sure, indeed. Like you said, just so many layers to it, and wanted to just throw out some cultural layers, how this occurs. So discussing what it means to be monogamous or ethically monogamous in partnership. I think especially from a clinical standpoint, this has become more of the acceptable, something acceptable, air quotes, or something to be curious about in partnership, especially long-term partnership, over the years. And again, kind of that questioning of, was monogamy the norm in relationships that you witnessed? Was everyone monogamous that you grew up around? Probably yes, for most people.
Well, they at least claimed to be.
Right, on the outside, on the surface level. And so, even if you started to hear about, infidelity across a family tree, what that was like. So, was it the norm? And does that feel true to your values or obligatory? Because that's the way. So everyone's like that. Everyone in culture, everyone in my family, all of my friends, Okay. And just, what do you actually feel about it for yourself? Not what everyone else is thinking and doing, but truly for yourself. And I wanted to bring up, and again, if we do a whole, which we probably will, CNM, ENM episode, but non-monogamous folks in relationship can still experience betrayal. I think there's kind of the cultural myth bust with polyamory, everyone's just whatever. And I'm hey, no, there can be deeply some betrayal that happens with boundary or agreement violations that I've discussed with clients that I've seen individually that are exploring E&M, where that's been really painful, where we've had to individually sit and talk about their feelings with a boundary violation or agreement, and then try to relay that to partner or take that to couples therapy. There are for sure violations that happen, whether you're progressing in an emotional connection with someone and you don't share that with your partner, with your nested partner. And that's one of your violations. Like, that's one of your agreements. So there's definitely there's still betrayal that can happen there. And I think culturally, there's a little bit of like, whatever. And I'm like, no,
right.
there's not rules, but there's agreements to keep the relationships open and healthy and like an open pathway of communication.
Yep.
So that can still indeed happen. And, it's not lost on me, the social scripts that influence how people respond to cheating, even how I'm opening up and we're being so dramatic talking about, celebs and everything, because it is a hot topic. It just always has been. And my brain, as I was writing this up, was like, I feel like the way that people at times respond to infidelity is like the walking kind of sympathy card when someone's experiencing grief. Like, they're trying to give a meaningful statement, or they're like trying to support you or say the right thing, but it just like sucks to hear it, or it's like not the right thing to hear, or it puts pressure. And so again, those kind of scripts, oh my God, they're a monster, you should dump them. The pressure to leave comes from family or friends or whoever in the periphery in your life. And I feel like sometimes the pressure to leave sometimes is like victim blaming mentality, which, as we talked about, and we'll go further into in the role of therapy, if you are the betrayed, kind of how it then flips the script to, well, you're foolish, or you lack self-respect, or you're weak if you decide if you stay. Like, I feel like since the realm of, especially in the union or like system of marriage, ever since it's, over time socially acceptable, divorce is on the table. And so why would you not get a divorce? Do you not care about yourself? Do you not have self-respect? So how it really quickly morphs into something kind of ugly sometimes from people that are supposed to love you and want the best for you. And again, do want the best for you. But again, the individual understanding of what is and is not acceptable and the projection of that naturally happens, even though it kind of sucks. And then the flip side, where sometimes it's the pressure to forgive. So this coming from pretty esteemed religious or cultural expectations. I've heard a lot of folks when we've talked about infidelity, either personally or clinically, with it's unacceptable to get divorced in my culture, or it would be embarrassing to get divorced and have everybody weigh in on that. Familial expectations, I think, really drive some of those pressures to forgive. And that just can be really hard to navigate if you're already dealing with infidelity. So you're dealing with the thing, and then you're dealing with all this extra shit. And it can feel really lonely and isolating, I think, is what I can conceive, having not personally gone through it myself. But so yeah, just all of those interesting like cultural layers and factors, and wanting to just kind of lead us over into when you want to try healing infidelity together, because it is a dual process, which Val will get into here soon. But the betrayed must recover from the trauma of the betrayal, and the betrayer must recover from whatever disconnection or pattern led them there, whilst showing up consistently for repair. My brain thinks of like the Gottman atonement model, the affair model. And so what real repair looks like beyond, I'm sorry. That's one piece of this pie. And being able to rebuild trust through transparency, remorse, and then consistency. And it's not necessarily an easy road. So,
right. Yeah. And it really requires the person who did the betraying to be extremely patient, because if we do frame it as, this is a betrayal trauma, this is a severe attachment rupture. Like you might feel like you have said 1,000 times. And that doesn't mean that like the betraying partner, at times they might get very angry, very hurt, and very, let's say, unskillful in the way they're communicating. And we do want to, the Gottmans would say, we should still try to encourage that person not to be using the 4 horsemen when they're expressing those things, but they can express them until they're blue in the face, right?
Yeah.
Because it just is a part of sometimes that healing process is you need to hear over and over again, you know, instead of like, oh, I thought we were over this by now, or I already, you know, we talked about this yesterday, whatever. Like, it's just, it takes time. It really does. Yeah. And really, for the person who's been betrayed, it can feel earth-shattering. It can feel like they have no ground underneath them. With longer affairs especially, that person is then revising like, okay, wait, like last year when we were on vacation in Hawaii, this was happening and this was, you know, this had already been going on. And so I'm rewriting all of these memories. And so it can be like kind of a mind fuck. It can make people feel crazy. And, you know, especially if the person who did the betraying, like genuinely still feels like love and feels like, well, no, like I was there. I loved the trip to Hawaii. It can be really hard for the hurt person to grasp how those things can be true at the same time. Right. Which like, yeah, it's possible sometimes that someone is trying to just cover their tracks and they maybe don't mean it. But I think it is possible that both of those things can be true. And it's just really hard. Obviously, betrayal trauma affects nervous system regulation, your body doesn't know the difference between like a threat to your actual life versus like a more social relational threat. So you can very much go into that fight, flight, freeze, and that can, you know, continue to play out if you don't get the healing that you need, that sort of looping incessantly, especially if you have any visual images that have taken residency in your brain, like EMDR, that shit. It's, you know, it can be really, really painful. In individual therapy, you know, that could be a great space to like do the trauma processing piece, explore the pain, work through those intrusive thoughts and images, look at what you actually need for that repair. What do you need if the relationship is going to survive for the person who did the betraying? Because you're not going to be able to go to your partner with how this is painful for you, right? No. So it almost becomes really important for a different reason for the betraying partner to have support from either a skilled therapist who can be a little more unbiased than like your friends are going to be. But, you know, if you have some good, like emotionally mature friends in your life, they can also be support for you to process how it is also hard for you. Like you can feel sometimes like you're the punching bag. And again, while we don't want to condone just like the person who was betrayed, just completely unbridled expression of their pain with, you know, name calling and screaming and whatever, like ideally we don't want to go there, but it still can be very hurtful to be like, okay, I'm going to spend the rest of my life, you know, repenting and apologizing. So the betraying person needs support, processing the shame, exploring, you know, what got them here. And then in couples therapy, obviously being able to come together in that really sort of fragile, tenuous place. Sometimes it's important to explore if the couple is wanting to work things out, like, okay, is this for genuine reasons of both of you want to repair, or is fear kind of driving the decision, or convenience, logistics? One of the things that Janice Spring talks about in her book After the Affair, which is kind of a classic in this space, is identifying low cost and high cost trust building behaviors. So the low cost, and this is customized for each couple who's going through this, that the person who was betrayed needs to kind of identify, and both of them to a degree, but especially the person who was hurt needs to identify, like, what are the things that are going to help me feel rebuild that sense of security and safety and trust in kind of the day-to-day. So like, hey, I want you to tell me when you're going to be home from work, and I want you to be home at that time, right? Like that's that's an easy, I can do that, right? We call it low cost because it's like, yes, I can do that. Or I need you, if I want to see your phone, I need you to be willing to let me see your phone, right?
Yeah.
It's normally when we're not going through this kind of attachment rupture, we might say that, well, it'd be better to have boundaries to where we're not like feeling the need to look at each other's phones and stuff. But in this recovery phase, very appropriate, right? For that to feel like if it's needed, right? So that kind of low cost behavior. But sometimes we may feel the need to ask for a high cost behavior if we really we're going like, I don't know how I'm ever going to be able to trust this person. So some examples of that might be like, let's say this was a coworker that this person cheated with, that, the partner might say, well, I need you to not be working at the same company as this person anymore. Or, there was one example she gives in the book where it was like it was a prominent, the guy was a prominent figure in town, and she just felt like there was no escaping. Everybody knew. She's like, we need to move. We just need to move. I cannot stay with you if we don't move, right? So that is a higher cost behavior, but a lot of times if the betraying partner is willing to do that, is willing to go along with that higher cost behavior, that can be a large branch toward rebuilding the trust, right? You're still going to need to show consistency over time with that kind of low cost stuff and being, worthy of that trust consistently over time, doing what you say you're going to do. But sometimes there may be a sort of high cost thing that needs to be looked at.
Yeah.
Yeah. And really it's just looking at relationship 2.0, right? Like if we're going to try to make this work, we kind of have to look at it like the tarot deck, the tower card. It's a tower moment where we got to burn the old one down. And if we're looking at rebuilding something new, we've got to figure out what are the new boundaries and agreements that can help with that process. Be honest what our expectations are of each other, and are we both on board for that? And then I briefly mentioned discernment counseling earlier. And who knows, maybe we'll do a whole episode on that one day too. But just briefly, it is a contained process between 1 and 5 sessions, long sessions, where if there is a relationship where one partner is like really wanting to preserve, really wanting to work on things, like an affair is not the only example of that, but let's say a lot of times after affairs, this is the case where one partner really wants to work on it. And the other partner isn't so sure. Maybe he doesn't even know that they want to go to couples therapy, right? Like, I don't even know if I want to work on this. I don't even know if this issue can be fixed, right? Discernment counseling is really helpful in that exact case. You come together, but you do a lot of individual work. We say it's like ER level work. So if regular couples therapy is just sort of like you're going to the doctor, you're learning new skills kind of thing, like this is like we're getting in there quick and we are doing some emergency level triage here, and going pretty deep pretty quickly. So it's a really, really helpful thing if you're not sure that you want actual therapy, but you need to figure out, like, are we going to try to repair or are we going our separate ways?
Yeah. Okay. Well, but for real, cheating is not always a death sentence for a relationship, but it is a relational earthquake. Whether you leave, stay, or something in between, the goal isn't to erase what happened, because you can't. It's to understand it, tend to the wound, and decide what kind of relationship you want going forward, whether it's with that person or rebuilding the relationship with yourself. So yeah, that's the one on that one.
Okay.
Yeah. And now our musical segment. Now that's what I call Okay, where Emerson and I each share a song with each other each week as representatives of our respective generations. We tell you a little bit about the song or artist, and then we press pause, we share the song with each other, and then we come back for our live reactions. And we're capturing it all on a Spotify playlist linked in the show notes for you.
So what you got?
I was really struggling with this because, come on, there's so many iconic cheating songs. And I stumbled across a previous playlist of mine and I was like, okay. So I threw down My Mind by Yebba. Have you ever heard of this song?
No.
Okay, thank God, because you're about to have your socks rocked off, bitch. Okay, so Abigail Smith hails from Arkansas and was raised as a church kid, and she attended Belmont University. Shout out, little Nashville plug. I don't know if she graduated. Her Wikipedia said she attended. So, she's known professionally as Yebba, Yebba, in honor of her late mother's nickname to her. So her name is Abby. So Yebba is Abby spelled backwards. Because she died by suicide, and she talked about being, her mother was a huge support of hers. And the performance that I linked, oh my God. Like, I discovered this song in 2021, and I'm not kidding you. I think I had it on a loop for probably a month. Mind you, I wasn't like cheated on or anything. I just was like so stuck in this song, and I was like really depressed and like sad. So I was just like, okay, I'm like sad, and here's the song called My Mind, and I feel like I'm losing my goddamn mind. So it's interesting because it's obviously has infidelity kind of weaving, but this performance that we're going to watch was a week before her mother passed away. And I believe she's 21. You just are so not even so fucking ready. I'm so serious. But because of how everything kind of impacted with this song at the time of her mother's passing, I think how it then got interpreted over to me was with this kind of like undercurrent of like being about mental health as well. And yeah, just it's really awesome to see someone like honor a parent in this way. I just think it's really beautiful. And so other bits about Yebba, because she's fucking amazing. She got signed to Ed Sheeran's record label in 2017. She won a Grammy alongside PJ Morton for How Deep Is Your Love in 2019. And then, of course, she was on the song Yebba's Heartbreak on Drake's 2021 Certified Lover Boy album. Just insanely and criminally underrated talent. I just think she's fucking awesome. Her riffs, mwah, you're not ready. Take a shot every time I say you're not ready.
And I've literally never heard of this person. So that's how under the rock I am. Also, if people are looking for the exact performance that you are referencing, since it is not on Spotify, it is on YouTube, a live performance. It is the Yebba My Mind from So Far NYC. What I would give for that level of vocal control, which
I would never shut up.
I mean, yeah, you can train to some extent, but you're kind of either born with it or you're not.
I agree with that. That is, I don't know if I believe in a God, but that's God-given talent, baby. Wow.
Wow. So cool.
Just the agony that she's able to convey is
at 21, stop it.
Stop.
I know.
I'm gagged. Oh
my God. Okay. Well, I could not decide. Even earlier, I was like, damn, I should have done Brandy and Monica, The Boy Is Mine, because that's iconic. But this one, I know you know this song, but I thought it was worth bringing on here. This is I Write Sins, Not Tragedies by Panic at the Disco. Millennials, hold on to your seats because this song came out 20 years ago. Holy shit.
I was 6 years old.
Oh my God. And it is truly an iconic cheating song. So some little bits that I wanted to share about this before we watch the video, which I was also like, I'm sure I've seen this video at one point in time, but it's probably been 18 years. So like, sure, I'll watch the video. But so we all know that beautiful pizzicato cello motif that is sort of the building block of the song, played by session musician Heather Stebbins. So I was like, shout out to you, Queen. I hope you have gotten royalties for these last 20 years because you were critical to this song. And then this was a little fun fact because what a weird title, right? And it's not mentioned in the lyrics, but it refers to Douglas Copeland's novel Shampoo Planet, wherein the main character, Tyler Johnson, says, quote, I am writing a list of tragic character flaws on my dollar bills with a felt pen. I am thinking of the people in my universe, for each of these people, the one flaw in their character that will be their downfall, the flaw that will be their undoing. What I write are not sins, I write tragedies. I know, poetic. Okay, Douglas. And, another thing that I love this song for is its connection with my favorite meme, probably, which lives in rent-free in my head forever. Did you just open it, or should I screen share it?
I'm opening it.
We'll put it in the show notes, listeners. I'm just letting Emerson process it right now, and I'll tell you what it is. So I just cackle. Okay,
Yeah.
So for the listeners, because yes, you should go click the show notes and find this meme later, but it is the two Property Brothers and circa early 2000s, but there is a third Property Brother. And he looks like a Brendan Urie pop punk kind of character. And so somebody posted it on Twitter at the time that these three looking like they're dressed for fucking Easter Sunday or something. And it said, this pic of the third Property Brother has me seriously messed up. And then someone posted, I chimed in with a, haven't you people ever heard of refurbished barnwood doors?
Like, all the Gen Zers are going to be like, Emerson, represent us better. I don't give a fat rat's ass. It's so funny.
So funny.
They do look like they're going to church on Easter Sunday.
Oh my God, I'm dying every time I think of the song. This is the line that plays in my head with the refurbished barnwood doors. Okay. So also, I just had to say, I did a little digging because I'm not like a mega fan of Panic at the Disco, but I do think they're solid. Brendan Urie, the lead vocalist, who's been like the one consistent band member for the last 19, 20 years. Mm-hmm. His voice is phenomenal. Like, I don't know if what was that? He did a song for, was it Frozen or one of the big Disney movies? And I was like, okay, go off with that range. Like, his range is insane. Wow. And then I was very disturbed to learn he's younger than me. What the fuck? And you've been this successful for over 20 years. Like, that's just depressing. So he was releasing this song at like 19 or whatever.
Sure.
And he worked at Tropical Smoothie Cafe in high school to pay the band's rent for their practice space. Like, you earned this success, King.
Okay.
I know,
Mango
right?
smoothie.
All right. So let's watch the vid. Oh my God. I can't decide what was more disturbing, all the white faces in the audience or the attendance at the wedding, or the early 2000s pop punk hair.
I think it's a solid tie. Like, the little PC,
Oh my God.
just like stuck. I'm like, were y'all just gluing your fucking hair to your forehead?
Like, it's only one step above like the early Bieber do. Like,
yes. I mean, just iconic song. And I feel like I totally brought this up before, but I feel like when I went to Bonnaroo, maybe it was the second time. I've only been twice. The second time that I went, and I was with my millennial friends at the millennial set famously. And I was like, oh my God. And I knew this song when it came on, and I knew Teenage Dirtbag when it came on. The rest, I was like, I'm going to let the millennials have this one. This is their tent. They're healing. Fuck you, mom and dad. Like, they were just living. So
I love it.
And now for our last segment of the show, welcome to Fire Dumpster Phoenix. It is rough out there, y'all, and we need all the hope we can get. It's time to go dumpster diving for some positive news and rise from the leftover Happy Meal ashes together.
So, Valerie, what is your good news that you scrounged up for this week?
Ooh, I did a little scrounging on the street, and lucky for you, I'm not going to attempt my Northern Ireland accent. Though after watching Dairy Girls, though, it is very tempting, and y'all need to go watch Dairy Girls. Okay,
immediately.
Immediately. So Niall Harbison, who is from Northern Ireland, raised in Brussels, former chef, struggled with addiction for a lot of his life, and was in Thailand a few years ago, recovering after, just a little near-death experience, and started feeding some street dogs. And really developed a relationship with these dogs and was like, hold on, because there are parts of the world like, we see strays here occasionally, but there are countries where it is like street dogs be running amok and they need help, because there's nobody like spaying them and neutering them. And So anyway, he founded the nonprofit Happy Doggo, is working with international partners. They have helped hundreds of thousands of dogs every year in Thailand, Sri Lanka, Indonesia. They feed over 1,200 dogs a day, neuter, spay, vaccinate. They work to rehome some dogs. And he said, there's 500 million street dogs in the world, and my goal in my lifetime is to halve that number. So that's going to require legislation, government funding, partners, which is all part of the next part of the Happy Doggo mission. He's written a couple of books in 2023, a memoir called Hope, How Street Dogs Taught Me the Meaning of Life. And most recently, just in the last couple of months, came out with Tina, the dog who changed the world. So I love that.
Oh my God, that's so sweet. I just love an animal story. You know me, I'd be crying and shit. Okay. Mine is, I was also just like, maybe I was on my period this week. I don't know. But I was like, was reading this. So a prolific reader, former Marine and social worker, Dan Pelzer, passed away July 1st of this year at the age of 92. Dan kept a list starting in 1962 of all of the books he ever read from every imaginable genre, filling over 100 pages of books. And at the time of his passing, he had read 3,599 books. He inspired those around him with how much he liked to read and obviously just like being a king from what I can hear, and loved to share thoughts with others at the local library. And so as his family were planning his end of life services, funeral, things like that, they thought, okay, there were too many pages to be able to give out like copies of his reading list. That just wasn't feasible. So they created a website. It's like whatdanread.com, where you can scroll literally like a digitized version of, and you can like see his like handwriting of these like pages. It just was so sweet. I was like, oh my God. And then because again, he just like the fabric touched so many people. Val, you just saw it. Isn't it cute? Like
it's so cute.
His little handwriting. I was like, my Shayla. I was like, oh my God, I couldn't believe it. And then his local library where he visited and checked out so many of these books or like made connections, had book recommendations. They have like a living memorial of like Dan's picks where like they like put up some of the books and like a little bit about him. And then the Columbus, Ohio Metropolitan Library made a special archive of the books that he read with like a searchable database. Like just like so many people obviously really loved and cherished this man and how much he read and what that, you know, who that brought him to, and just like so many, seems really loved. I just thought it was really sweet. And his handwriting, I was literally crying. I was like, oh my fucking God, this little old man. So I'm going to check out what Dan has read and maybe go pick up a book that he read and like feel connected to this stranger. Why not?
Yes,
like, we're all interconnected. So
oh my God. And listeners, if you're looking for it, the link should be in the show notes, but it's what-dan-read.com. I'm like flipping through because I was, you know, you have to go page by page. It's not like a list. It's like a scan where you're flipping page by page. So I'm not going to do it right now, but you believe me, the first question I had to myself was, okay, so he passed just this year. Did he be getting into some of that smut that's been very popular in the last few years?
Oh my God.
I want to know, was he an ACOTAR girly? Was he like a fourth wing? Was he getting into the smut in his later years? I want to know. Wait, he went back and forth between typewriter and handwritten, which is so cute.
Wait, that's so cute. Now I'm like, oh my God, was he reading ACOTAR? And then also my brain was like, has he read The Ethical Slut? Be honest, like I was like, has he read that? I don't know.
Oh my God.
Shout out Dan, wherever you are in the ether, boo. Like we need to read more. It's good for us.
I'm legit inspired. I'm like,
me too.
Girl, if he can read however many fucking books, almost 3,600 books. Yes. I'm like, I got up my game. It's time.
No. For real. I'm like, I need to stop being a brain rotted individual and get on Dan's vibe.
And on that note, I'm going to leave and go pick up a book.
Stay sassy, go read Bookworms, and we'll catch you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
This has been another episode of But For Real, produced by Valerie Martin and Emerson Ryder and edited by Sean Conklin. But For Real is a Gaia Center production. The Gaia Center offers individual, couples, and group therapy for clients across Tennessee and in person in our Nashville office, as well as coaching for clients worldwide. For show notes or to learn more about our work, visit GaiaCenter.co or find us on Instagram at the Gaia Center and at butforrealpod.
But For Real is intended for education and entertainment and is not a substitute for mental health treatment.
Also, since we host this podcast primarily as humans rather than clinicians, we are not shy here about sharing our opinions on everything from snacks and movies to politicians and social issues.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode.
See you next time, bestie.